So here it is, finally finished, the Dan A4-H2O custom loop, a powerful liquid-cooled gaming machine in a PC case smaller than a shoebox. The goal here was to explore what custom water cooling was like in one of the best ITX cases at the moment, and I thought I'd go the full distance this time with hardline tubing and a full-sized pump res combo. And I think on a scale of 1 to 10 of how difficult PC builds can get, with 10 being pretty much impossible, this is like a solid 7 to 8, it's definitely doable, not impossible, but will take you a few days to put together, especially the hardline tubing and the cable management. Definitely take your time with those. In the end though, pretty neat, tiny little package, and the performance is actually pretty good too. So yeah, we'll talk about the thermals and the noise levels in just a minute, but first, let's take a look at what parts actually went in here. And I want to start with the radiator and the fan setup, because this is easily one of the most important parts of this entire build in my opinion, because you do have a bit of flexibility with what CPU, GPU, motherboard, power supply, that sort of stuff, but the radiator and the fans really are important. The goal here is to extract as much cooling performance from your loop as possible, and since you only have room for a 240 rad and 2 fans, you want to make sure that you're using every square millimeter that you have available to you. So the setup that I've gone with here is the 240mm SE radiator from EK paired with the 30mm thick T30 fans from Fantex. Technically, this setup shouldn't fit in this case, it's about 3mm over our thickness limit, but by removing the anti-vibration pads from the fans, we get a really snug fit. You'll also have to make sure that the screws that you're using aren't too thick either, otherwise the top panel will have a bit of a bulge. If you want a much easier fit, you can definitely use your standard 25mm thick fans instead. You will be sacrificing a few degrees in terms of temperatures, but the fitment will be a lot easier. Now, as usual with your sandwich layout case like the Dan A4-H2O, the ideal airflow setup is to have your top fan set to exhaust, which means that all of the kind of cool air is passing through the side panels and it's getting pulled out the top just like that, as opposed to kind of just dumping all of the air, inside the case and it's kind of getting trapped and, not really going anywhere. Another side effect of this exhaust setup is that your interior components stay a lot cooler. So power supply, which definitely needs to run cool and quiet, your M.2 drives, your VRM, that stuff is going to be a lot happier in the airflow setup that we have here. And yeah, in the end, we've got those powerful Fantex T30 fans running in a pretty small volume. It's actually a really strong airflow setup. Now for the GPU, I've gone with the RTX 3070 Ti, mostly because I wanted to play slightly on the conservative side of things when it came to the heat load of our entire loop. This is still an ITX build after all. And it's a bit hard to call this a compromise. 3070 Ti still pushes out very decent performance at 1440p and 4K, and in the end, in terms of power draw, we're still looking at around 300 watts. One important note here though, if you are going with a similar 30 series GPU, I'd highly recommend going with one which has a very short PCB design, either a Founders Edition card like this or a reference model like what I'm using in my own system. With those shorter PCBs, the water blocks that go with them are also typically pretty short, and that means you'll have a bit of extra room when it comes to your water cooling components. If you are lucky enough to pick up a Founders Edition card, I'd highly recommend an EK Special Edition water block if you have the budget for it. I mean, the look and build quality of this thing is just totally different, especially in the A4-H2O where the block is mounted vertically, and so you get to see that thing in full view. Not to mention, the satin silver water block is a perfect match for the silver Dan A4-H2O. It just looks so good. Functionally as well, I love that you have a couple of different options when it comes to the ports, and for this build it actually worked out perfectly since I ended up using the inlet and outlet ports on different sides. Now the CPU that I've gone with here is the i7-12700K. Again, same kind of idea here with the 3070 Ti. We're looking for something with pretty high performance without pushing the heat load of the loop out of control. And honestly, if you're focused more on a gaming kind of oriented build, you might even want to step down to the i5-12600K. That thing is still a 10-core CPU with monster performance when it comes to gaming. If by any chance you do need the extra cores and power though, the i7-12700K is a great fit for what we're doing here. Then comes the motherboard. Now we've previously taken a look at the Z690 Unify ITX from MSI and the Z690 Aorus Ultra from Gigabyte, so for this build I wanted to test out the ROG Strix from ASUS. By far the chunkiest, thickest ITX board that I've worked with. That's both a good thing and a bad thing. On one hand, it's absolutely stacked with features, but CPU cooler compatibility is going to be a bit of a nightmare. It just fits our Velocity 2 block from EK, and the fitment there is incredibly satisfying. You do get a BIOS flashback and a clear CMOS button here, as well as a stacked rear I/O with 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, and as you can see, it also uses an active fan for the VRM. In fact, the only thing that I can think of that is missing from this build is a 2-pin temperature sensor, something that we've seen on previous ITX boards and would have been perfect for this build when it comes to monitoring the temperature of the coolant and using that to set up the fan curves. Although at this point, I'm not even sure if there's any room left for a 2-pin temperature sensor. I mean, just take a look at how dense the PCB is on this board. Then for the memory, I've gone with a 32GB DDR5 6000 MHz kit from G.Skill with pretty fast timings at just CL32. This is actually one of the fastest DDR5 memory kits that you can buy at the moment, and visually, at least in my opinion, it is one of the best looking too. And I'll also mention compatibility wise between this memory kit and the motherboard that we're using, absolutely no problems. So, just enable XMP and you're good to go with 6000 MHz CL32, which is not always the experience with a Z690 and DDR5. Sometimes you do have to compromise with the speeds or, loosening up those timings. Now, spinning the build back around, we can see my favorite part about this entire loop, which is the EK FLT80. This big, interesting looking tank right here. Connects everything up, powers the entire loop. It's a DDC pump and a full-sized, water tank as well. Filling the loop was an absolute breeze. Noise levels are quite low as well. And yeah, definitely one of my favorite pieces of water cooling hardware to date. I did also end up swapping to a proper heatsink for the pump as well, which kind of matches the Saturn GPU water block. That was easy enough. It is a bit bulkier, but it does look miles better. Now, you usually mount this thing to a 120mm fan, which, doesn't really work in this build. So a little bit more involved was kind of figuring out a mounting solution, but I eventually came up with this. It seems to work pretty well. It's a 3D printed mount that uses a 2.5-inch drive spot below the power supply, and there you also get the benefit of the anti-vibration mounting. And I will be honest, it's far from perfect. It does have a bit of flex and a bit of wobble, but actually once you hook up the Hardline tubing, it stays in place pretty well. As usual, I'll link the 3D model down below for those that want to 3D print it and do the same thing. It also uses the same M3 screws that EK include in the box of the FLT80. This build also wouldn't have been possible without EK's new micro fittings. Just take a look at how small these things are. Compared to your typical Hardline fittings, they're much shorter and narrower, allowing for some super tight tubing runs that just wouldn't have been possible. They are a bit trickier to work with though. The best way that I found to insert a tube was to wet the inside of the fitting, unscrew it only a couple of turns, and then insert the tube and then tighten it up all the way. That's as opposed to completely unscrewing the fitting as you would, a regular size fitting. These ones on the other hand, you only have to loosen up a little bit to get the tube in. EK also sent over their new low profile right angle fittings, which came in super clutch for this build. Basically a better version of the Coolants fittings that I've used in a lot of previous water-cooled PCs. These are a lot easier to work with and tighten up. They just leave you with kind of that extra bit of confidence that they're not going to leak, and they do look a lot cleaner as well. Now for the power supply, pretty standard pick here. We're going with the Corsair SF750 Platinum. I've also installed it flipped, so facing the inside of the build. Otherwise, the power cable gets in the way of the radiator fittings and the tubing runs. Luckily though, still seems to be getting plenty of airflow as noise from the power supply just isn't an issue. By far the hardest part of this build though is the Hardline tubing. Specifically this tubing run here, which goes from the GPU block to the CPU block, but has to wrap underneath the power supply. I think I attempted this thing like 5 times before getting it to where it is now, and honestly it's still not perfect. And also that 180-degree bend that goes from the radiator to the FLT80, not perfect and a little tough. Was able to get this one on the first try though. Just got to take your time, be a little bit conservative on the heat gun temperature, and work that bend over a couple of minutes. So without a doubt, the Hardline tubing for this build, it does look incredible, but it was by far the hardest part of this entire experience. And again, for those wanting to maybe replicate it, soft tubing is definitely the way to go, especially if you have little to no liquid cooling experience. I get some people contacting me saying they want to do, their first liquid cooled build, and it'll be something like this. And it's like, no, just don't even bother, because it's either going to take you weeks and weeks or you're not going to be happy with the result. So again, soft tubing is going to be miles better. Might not look as good, but you're going to get the build up and running a lot easier, and you also won't be second guessing whether you have your fittings and your tubing, hooked up 100% tight, because, soft tubing is just a little bit easier in that regard as well. Now for the coolant, I wanted to try something a bit different here, and I opted for the neon green cryofuel from EK, and honestly, it looks sick. Then, combining that with the green LEDs from the water blocks and the pump res, you get this kind of glowing neon effect, which just looks super interesting. Now, in terms of temperatures, despite only running a 240mm rad, thermals just aren't a problem in this build at all. As with my own liquid cooled build, I'm using the Argus monitor software to control the radiator fans based off of the GPU temperature. That way, as the GPU or the CPU start heating up, those radiator fans will start ramping up accordingly as well. In the end though, pretty happy with this performance. After full gaming load for about an hour, the 3070 Ti tops out at about 62 degrees C. Now that might sound a little bit warm, but this was with the radiator fan speed at just 1000 RPM. So there's definitely a lot more thermal headroom in the tank here if you want to run things a little bit louder, which, I don't really. I prefer my builds to be a little bit on the quieter end, but the thermal headroom is there if you want it. Then with a conservative undervolt on the GPU, locking it to 1920 MHz at 920 millivolts, we drop about 5 to 6 degrees at the same fan speed and performance. Here's an idea of what that sounds like at full load. Then as for the CPU, at the end of a full Cinebench 10-minute loop, we get most of the performance core sitting in the mid-70s, and this is with the 12700K running at full power close to 200 watts. Again, fan speed here is just at 1000 RPM, pump speed as well pretty conservative at about 2000 RPM, so if you wanted to run a 12900K in this build, that would honestly be doable with little to no tuning. So there it is, probably one of my favorite ITX builds to date, just absolutely mental in terms of looks, and the performance as well is a lot better than most would expect in this form factor. Now, for those, again, wanting to replicate something similar, definitely go with soft tubing if you don't have much liquid cooling experience, and as well for the fitment of the top radiator, if you want something just a little bit more flush and less of a hassle there, you can go with the 25mm Noctua fans instead of the T30s that I've used here. In terms of compact liquid cooling performance though, I mean, this thing is just really hard to beat. Realistically, you could stretch this up to a 12900K and a 3080 if you really wanted to, and that's crazy considering the tiny footprint and the volume. So as always, a huge thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this one down below, and I'll see you all in the next one.